Welcome back to DWJ News. I'm your host, the DeadwoodJedi, and this is today's news in Raid Shadow Legends. Our main story tonight is new updates from patch 2.30, as well as some information involving the recent data mining of Raid Shadow Legends. But before we get into that, we'd like to begin with an event that begins tomorrow. As everyone is aware, this weekend begins the moment where we do 2 times Ancient Shards summoning weekend. This is always a great moment where a chance for every player out there to get a new legendary or epic champion seeker that they've been looking for. In light of this, though, there does come a question. With the Halloween fusion, fragment fusion coming up next week, most likely, we must ask ourselves, is it good to use our shards now, or should we wait till later? Well, in a new segment from DWJ, we're going to be asking that very same question. Should you pull?
So here we are again. We have Ancient Shard summonings. Yay! That's so great to hear. Because we don't have that every other weekend as it is. But I mean, who doesn't like more shards, right? But what are these shards? I mean, where do these champions even come from? You know, who opens a crystal and gets a champion? That doesn't make any sense. Why would that be the thing that happens? You know, I mean, what are these, how are these people being born even? Is there a stork coming by and dropping off shards? Are we the parents and we're birthing these shards, these champions out of these crystals? Is that what happens? Why, when I open a blue one, do I get an okay one? But I open a gold one and it's, oh my goodness, manna from heaven. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? You know? And how disappointed are those parents when they get the green shard? And they're like, why did we get the green one? It probably comes from your side of the family. Of course, we have this event is thankfully is paired with the Champion Chase event, so at least you get something if you open your shards now. But many of us are aware there's a fragment fusion coming up, and you're gonna have to pull some shards to win that. I mean, they always hide everything behind some kind of paywall, whether that's a summon rush or a Champion Chase. It'll probably be a summon rush since we have a Champion Chase event going on right now. And so we have to decide, do I want to open my shards now, or do I want to wait for that? And it's always a gamble. I mean, like, you know, if you think of these shards, these champions is like your children that you're birthing. You know, what do you want them to grow up to be? I mean, hopefully it grows up to be like a doctor, right? A gold sharded doctor. You know, that'd be great. But, you know, most of the time, they're like a small business owner that struggles, month to month, but you're proud of them. Like, they did good. And occasionally, let's be honest, most of the time, you know, they're working, you know, a restaurant job, you know, as in the, you know, blue plate special, so to speak, you know. And that's okay. It's a job. It's respectable, you know. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But, you know, you kind of wonder where you're going with your life. And then on the other side, you could save your stuff for the fragment event, you know. And you know that's going to be okay, right? I mean, that might be like probably not like a lawyer, but like, you know, a paralegal or an accountant. All I know is that I really hope my child grows up to be a magnificent lizard. You know, that's all I want, a magnificent lizard. Oh.
Thank you, Oldwood, for that long-winded and tedious assessment. Now we're on to our main story tonight, which is, of course, patch 2.3 and the highlights therein. This patch is going to include several new champions, including the Fragment Fusion champion coming up for Halloween, as well as a couple other minor updates. And to cover this, we now go over to Jedi, who is going to give us a rundown of all this entails. Thank you, DeadwoodJedi, for that introduction. I appreciate it. So as you guys can see, we had an announcement today from Cirilla about the update highlights, and a link was given to us, posted by Valkyrie, our community manager. Now, this one, obviously, it talks about how we're going to have an update going live soon. And we got some spooky new champions, which we have here. There's 4 of them. It's very cool. It does also include Lydia, so that's kind of, I guess that's 5. That's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, so she's going to be 5, actually. So 5 new champions. And then we also are getting an FAQ apparently, which is very, very exciting. So if you have questions in game, there's going to be a link there in order to get some questions answered, basic stuff, I imagine. We're also getting some bizarre additions, which, I mean, they are bizarre, if you get my meaning. But seriously, these are also going to be some avatars that we can acquire if you're in the gold tier of the 3v3 arena area. So that's very exciting, I think, for everybody involved. Also, we have these miscellaneous notes here. Classic arena rewards will now be available in the arena tiers tab. How good is that? So we can actually click on it when we want it and get it then. And then apparently they're still having trouble figuring out who's advancing and who's not in tag team. And so that's going to be that green progress bar. Apparently there's a bug with that and it's being fixed. But I think what we really want to do is talk about these new champions. I think that's Elegius, maybe, but I think it's Elegius, and he's going to be the Fragment Fusion Champion. So that's going to be for Halloween. That's in a week now, so just get ready for that, guys. You want to make sure that you're able to get Elegius. And with all these Fragment Fusions, we know that they always paywall some of them, a good majority of them, either through champion events or through summon rushes. So you gotta know and save some of your shards for that. Just be ready if that's somebody you want. Now he does look very good. Block debuff on his A1 ability. He has a unique thing that kind of goes throughout this kit. Percentage chance of things to happen increases as he loses HP. So every 1% of HP he loses, the chance to place that block cooldown skill increases by 0.75%. So basically, it's never going to be 100% because then he'd be dead. But otherwise, it should, I'm assuming there's no books improving this, it should get pretty close to 100% as he gets really low on health. His A2 ability, Dead Stop, is really cool. Tax when enemies put their skills on cooldowns, but if the enemy has duplicates of that champion, it puts all their skills on cooldown as well. And I think that's a really cool approach to dealing with duplicates in this game and people that have like multiple champions. I run 2 Coronars. This is a good way to combat that. So kind of happy, kind of not. Then we have Ghost Rage. Ghost Rage is his 3rd skill. Tax all enemy, 75% chance to remove 2 buffs. That probably books up to 100%. I don't know, but I would guess. Also, 75% chance to decrease enemy's turn meter by 20%. Again, I would guess it books up to 100%, but again, don't know. And then decreases enemy turn meter by further 0.2% for every 1% of HP this champion loses. So as he loses HP, then he's gonna decrease their turn meters even more. So basically, if he was at 0 health, that would be another 20% turn meter decrease. That's pretty significant, I would say. So pretty cool. And then Spurned by Death is really dope. Prevents his champion's death, keeps them alive at 1 hit point when they're hit by a fatal hit. And the skill prevents this champion's death, heals them by 10% of their max HP, and then fills their turn meter by 20% and places a shield buff on them equal to 30% of their max HP for 2 turns. Will not prevent this champion's death if they are under a block heal debuff. So, block heal becomes really important with this champion so that they don't get this really nice passive ability. But making sure he stays alive at 1 hit point, that's really good because all of a sudden, hey, these skills become a lot stronger. Now, it doesn't say it puts unkillable on them, just prevents them from dying. So if they get hit multiple times, not good. Also, fatal hit, my guess is if you have a multi-attack champion, then that will punch right through it. It's just going to be each hit, the one hit that kills him would be my guess. But he looks okay. I don't know that he's like a great champion, but he's definitely an interesting kit, and I like him as an addition to this game. Obviously, we never know until we see the multipliers and we see the base stats to really know if they're good or not. But so far, I like the skills on this champion. I don't know that it's really worth wailing out for. Then you have Little Miss Annie, Void Legendary, yes. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit, 50% chance of playing heal reduction. Okay. And then Hollow Doll's second ability. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Places an increased attack buff on the champion for 2 turns before attacking if the target's under a shield buff. And ignores 25% of the target's defense if they're under a shield buff. So that's really good. So we got another shield busting champion here. And then places a perfect veil buff on the champion for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. So really cool. If they can kill somebody, then they're going to be safe. Also, fills his champion's turn meter by 30% if this attack does not kill the target. So either way, kill or not, it's going to be a pretty good skill. And then Playdate attacks one enemy, ignore 25% of the target's defense if the target has higher defense than this champion. Decreases the target's max HP by 25% if the damage inflicted if the target has higher max HP than this champion, and will repeat attack a second time if the target has both higher defense and higher max HP. I do like these conditional skills. I think they're really cool in the game. I don't know how impactful this one is. The ignoring defense is always really nice. The decreased target's max HP is okay, I guess, but it's not like something I get really crazy about. Still, that's a pretty dope skill. And then there's 2 passives on this champion. When revived, attacks the enemy that killed this champion with default skill. How cool is that? Like revenge, right? Also fills this champion's turn meter by 25% and places a shield buff on this champion equal to 50% of their max HP for 2 turns. That's actually pretty sweet. Gets a huge shield and turn meter boost in addition to whatever the reviver gives them. Pretty dope, I'd say. Magical Heart. Each hit has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 5% and a 50% chance of decreasing the target's max HP by 5% of the damage inflicted when attacking enemies under a heal reduction debuff. Also, heals his champion by 5% of the damage inflicted when attacking enemies under heal reduction debuff. So, heal reduction is going to be really cool with this passive, being able to constantly decrease their turn meter or reduce their HP, like a 50-50 chance of those things happening. And then we have Narma the Return, Knight Revenant. A bunch of magic champions, which isn't the best, so we have a ton of them already, but it's cool. Attacks one enemy, 40% chance of increasing the duration of 3 random debuffs on the target by 1 turn. By the way, guys, this is the clan boss champion, okay? Super excited about this one. So got debuff extension right there on the A1. Sweet. Weirding Dance, A2. Attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 3 turns. And then also heals all allies 15% of this champion's max HP. The heal increases for 2% for each poison debuff on the target. Can somebody say clan boss? I mean, I can, because I did. And I think this one's going to be really good for that. And then Toxic Trance attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing 3 poison debuffs and a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 3 turns. Dude, so dope. Got poisons and decreased attack all in one. Really cool, man. I dig that kit. Not to mention debuff extension. So, like, it's a win-win-win-win, right? It'll be really interesting to see how these book up, because this is a legendary champion. You hope these book up to 100%. That'd be dope. And then we have Mass Fearmonger, Bannerlord, Spirit Champion. Cool. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 7.5%. Targets under a Fear or True Fear debuff reduce the cooldown of this champion's Taste of Despair, his passive skill, by 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. So the chance of this attack killing an enemy, probably not all that often, so we're going to kind of ignore that part. But decreasing turn meter by 7.5% if they're under a Fear or True Fear debuff, yikes, right? Like, fear is bad enough. I mean, it's kind of scary on its own. Now you're decreasing turn meter? Ugh. Haunted Machete attacks one enemy. 75% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn, and 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Super cool. Fear and speed. I guess they will book up to 100%. That would be my hope anyway, and that'd be pretty dope. Haunted Machete. 75% chance of placing a true fear debuff on 2 enemies for 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. So 1 true fear debuff will be placed on the enemy with the lowest turn meter and 1 on the enemy with the highest turn meter. Like, that's cool, man. I like the conditions. That's pretty dope. I don't like fear because it's scary, and I don't like scary stuff. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. But, you know, if you're going to have it, those are pretty dope. And then you got Well-Used Axe. Basic. Attacks one enemy, ignores 75% of the target's defense if the target is under a fear or true fear debuff. Cool. And then Ascended, same thing, but also places a 30% increased speed buff for 2 turns, a revive on death buff for 2 turns, and a block debuff buff for 1 turn on this champion if this attack kills an enemy. Super cool. Oh, I like this. I mean, I'm hoping that the multipliers are good in order to make this work, because a lot of trying to kill enemies, right? Taste of Despair fills his champion's turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy's HP drops below 20%. That's pretty big. Lots of opportunities to kill people that way. I mean, we've got, what, Jason right here with the mask and stuff. I'm not quite sure what this is supposed to be. And then we've got Scarecrow right here. And this one is maybe the Mummy, I guess. Lots of scary stuff coming for Halloween, man. Faction War reward. So we have it. I think it's pretty well understood. Lydia's not going to be available outside of completing Faction War. So she's going to be a pretty high, a high account kind of champion you're going to have. You can't pull her. But that said, she's really good. They did make some tweaks to her kit, but nothing super significant, I don't think. But I believe there were a couple little tweaks. I could be wrong about that. What I do know is she's going to be placing Fear debuff for 1 turn on her A1, and has a chance to increase the duration of poison sensitivity. And then there's a passive effect, and this is the one that's real bonkers, because if an enemy, if any enemy places a freeze, stun, fear, or true fear debuff on an ally of Lydia's, man, she's going to go ahead and attack them. And she's going to attack them 1 time for each debuff that's placed. I should say the first attack will target the attacker. This is part of what's changed. First one will target the attacker, the person that placed those debuffs, and then extra hits will attack random enemies. And you can only attack each enemy once. So what that really means is she's going to be a fear machine, right? Just placing that on everybody whenever the enemy places fear on your guys. Kind of crazy. Siren's Wail attacks all enemies. 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense and a 25% weakened debuff for 2 turns. Also places a strengthen buff 25% and an increased speed buff 30% on all your allies for 2 turns. This is like such a bonkers ability. I mean, all the stuff is right there. It's pretty crazy. And then Nullification attacks one enemy 2 times. First hit, 75% chance of placing poison sensitivity. Second hit, 75% chance of placing block buffs and block cooldowns debuffs for 2 turns. I mean, dude, she has like everything on her kit. It's pretty nuts. And then the hold passive or death hold, this passive ability is like ridiculous. Revive, it denies revive attempts. You can't revive your champions when Lydia's on the other team. Even if she's dead, it doesn't work. And if you try, what ends up happening is she revives all her allies that are dead with 50% HP and turn meter, and gets an extra turn. And if everybody's alive on your team, she gets an extra turn instead. And if she's dead, then she revives with 50% HP and turn meter. It's pretty crazy. And it ignores block revive. So even if you get killed with a block revive ability, it doesn't matter if you have Lydia on your team. That is completely broken and unbelievably OP. Even with a 9-turn cooldown, I do not see that being very good for this game. Is going to break Arena. But hey, that's cool, right? Beat your faction wars, then you can break Arena too. Rock on, man. And then ally resistant arena battles by 100. So yeah, she's pretty crazy. So that's the champions. That's the update. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? All right. Well, this was Jedi. DeadwoodJedi, back to you. Well, thank you, Jedi, for that rather juvenile response. And you should probably head back to journalism school and learn the meaning of objectivity. That said, let us head into our last story tonight, which is the Doom Tower. Now, the Doom Tower is, of course, an important event and addition to the game, as we have all been well awaiting its arrival for well over a year and a half now. That said, much information has been released through data mining efforts on parts of the community. And while we have a lot of this information, not all of it can we verify, and thus don't feel comfortable sharing at this time. What we can tell you, though, there are multiple floors with difficulty rising as you go higher up in the tower, and a rather large boss at the very end. If you look at the picture here, it seems like it would be a spider at the top. And I can tell you from what information I've been able to glean about the spider in this dungeon, it will be a tough fight if all the skills hold true. Now that said, the Doom Tower, we do know that there are going to be a variety of different abilities that you're going to need to bring to the table. There will be some fights where you can only use support champions or HP champions. There'll be some fights where you can only use champions of a certain affinity or faction, I'm sure. I haven't confirmed all of those various things, but we do know there are going to be limitations on the champions you can bring to different floors or different bosses. And it is very exciting as this is continuing to develop in front of us here. So, with that, our final note of the night is just a personal one. Make sure to take the time to evaluate whether you want any of these fragment champions before, especially the fusion one, before you go ahead and open your shards for this 2-time Ancient events. Now, if you miss this event, it should come back in about 6 weeks. They've been doing them fairly consistently about every other week with a 2 times event and a 10 times event in between. So even if you miss out on this weekend, you will have another one coming up shortly in the future. And that may be a better option for some of you. However, I will say that I always love pulling my shards on 2-time events. It's a thing that I like to do. And if you're interested in pulling shards with me, feel free to stop by and join me on stream as I will be opening shards Friday morning, starting at 11 a.m. So feel free to come by then and open shards with me there. Just post in my Discord and I'll be able to get that information out for you. That's going to be our show tonight. Thank you for choosing DWJ News as your information network. We know you have plenty of options out there, and we are humbled that you chose us. Go ahead and hit the like button as well as subscribe and hit that notification bell. When breaking news happens, you want to be here to hear it first. For all of us here at DWJ News, till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.